see, this is my life. It always will be. There's nothing else. Just us. And the cameras. And those wonderful people out there in the dark.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Out There in the Dark. My name is Tom Alexander, and with me, as always, Azed Majid.
Can you prove that your name is Tom Alexander, though? I mean, it's a bit of kind of
if
like
I need to.
Sounds a bit made up.
It's my soap opera name. Yeah. Thomas Alexander.
Dr. Thomas Alexander.
MD. Yeah. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That's the most I can muster.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm actually I'm a bit tired today.
Me too.
I was DJing earlier this afternoon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Great. How was it at the seniors facility?
Well, I got a lot of dancing grannies, which was great.
Oh, well,
funky grannies,
that's all
you know. You always like to see that, talking about like young butts and stuff like that. I like this tight butt.
Joking aside, how about a shameless plug for your DJing?
My DJing? Well, I go to this. I have this relationship with a very cool, like very funky Toronto record store cafe here in the city called High Notes Cafe and Vinyl. And yeah, sometimes I go there and spin my vinyl because I have a good vinyl collection. So.
He does. I can attest.
Yeah, they're all in boxes right now, but yeah. So I'm like the Sunday, easy listening sort of like DJ dude. Well, a lot of meditative, ambient kind of stuff.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
good crowd.
In and out, yeah. It's a Sunday afternoon. It's a really small place, right?
Yeah.
But
come by sometime.
Yeah, I don't do it that often. I just do it for the shits and gigs, right? But it's really fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Yeah.
On to.
You're cool, AZ.
You are cool. Way cooler.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Strange new guy. Yeah.
Now today.
Yes. What are we doing today?
Today, well, as many of you know, recently Guillermo del Torro released a new film and his adaptation of Frankenstein.
Now, how do you say that first name exactly?
Guillermo?
Is it actually Guillermo?
Guillermo?
I thought it was Guillermo.
I'm a white Canadian guy.
Yeah, well, I've just heard it pronounced
so accent properly. It's not.
No, it was not a personal dig at your whiteness. It was just like I've heard it pronounced so many different ways, like Guillermo, and like Guillermo, So I just wanted to know if there's a gua or if there's a hua.
Let's just call him Del Toro. Came out in theaters in October. It's currently streaming on Netflix.
Right, and this was a big thing for him. Apparently, he's always wanted to make a Frankenstein remake, right, or like his own take on it since he was a kid, apparently, and sort of got close with his version of Pinocchio a few years ago, which is
very Frankenstein-y.
very much a Frankenstein type story. We'll get into all of that.
He's kind of done Frankenstein in some fashion or another for most of his career, really.
He's got a lot of Frankenstein elements, a lot of created creatures and
creatures who are outsiders, who are sympathetic.
Yeah,
that's a big theme throughout.
Yeah,
all of his films.
Yeah, like the the dictatorial father in Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Because he's the hero of the piece, I think.
So this has given us the impetus to talk about Frankenstein as an entire mythos throughout culture since the novel was published in 1818, written by Mary Shelley.
Yeah, and there's been very few modern myths that have been as pervasive as Frankenstein, right? Literally when I was doing some research for this episode, I was looking up, how many Frankenstein movies can I watch, right? Frankenstein and then Frankenstein adjacent movies, right? Which, similar themes, but maybe not exactly the same, but there are literally thousands.
Yeah.
So yeah, like from all over the world too, which is a really fascinating thing about this whole Frankenstein myth is that it is a universal story, right? Even though it comes from this English teenager, in the 1800s, right? But that's the thing about this story is that, first of all, the person who wrote it, Mary Shelley, was the wife of Pierce Bysshe Shelley, the poet and writer, who was, fairly well known even in his day. Mm-hmm. And they were they were friends with Lord Byron, who was like, the guy, sort of like Twilight Gothic guy of the day, very, very, lived in a castle.
King
and
Edward,
whole thing.
yeah.
Had sex with his sister, apparently.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, this was the beginning of what they call the Romantic era, or, not the beginning, but you're in the midst of it. And the interesting thing about the Romantic era is, like, it comes right after the Enlightenment, right? So you have this with the Enlightenment, the 1700s, with all the revolution and all the rights of man and, all that kind of thing that's coming out, using the faculties of reason above anything else. This movement of poets and writers are very much focused on going back to feelings.
Right.
Feelings, emotions, instincts. They get very interested in more supernatural elements of existence, things that can't be explained through reason.
Well, that encapsulates the novel.
Yeah,
so incredibly
I'm just giving you a little background as to the era in which you're looking at, right? That this was a kind of a backlash to the overly rigid rationality of Enlightenment thinking. So Mary Shelley is like from interesting pedigree because she was born of her father, Charles Godwin, was like a noted political philosopher in Britain, quite well known, and had fairly radical ideas for the day. And her mother was Mary Wollstonecraft, who was very well known in the 1700s. She published a book called On the Rights of Women. So she's considered like probably the first modern feminist, right? And she died in childbirth.
Oh,
she died in childbirth, giving birth to Mary. So Mary never knew her mother, but knew of her reputation, right? And she was obsessed with her mother, apparently. And she used to hang out at her grave all the time. And even when she met Shelley, she was only 16. Shelley was already married, but, whatever. And they fell in love, and they consummated their relationship right next to her mother's grave. I'm not kidding.
For reals?
For reals, man.
So that explains some of that Gothic.
There's some darkness in these people to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's a darkness born of a kind of, again, like, in the old Greek kind of god system, they have the Apollonian and you have the Dionysian, right? And the Apollonian is more, again, very rational, efficient, competent, plays by rules, law abiding. Whereas the Dionysian, which is, basically god of wine, right, is all about frenzy and tribal and pleasure and hedonism.
And that fits into the twin poles of the Frankenstein novel or myth.
Absolutely.
Supposedly rational doctor who creates the monster, and then the monster is this agent of chaos that goes out into the world. Yeah. And it terrorizes the supposedly rational doctor, who of course is not rational at all. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that there's a lot about that happening with with Mary Shelley, Byron, and Pierce Shelley. That these guys were like on the cutting edge of a kind of secularism, but a secularism that kind of again indulged in mysticism and magic and
like an alchemy of sorts.
Yeah, and all the things that artists are fascinated by, even though they may not fully buy it, right? They just think that it's like the line from Shakespeare, right? There's more things in heaven and earth that can be dreamt of in your philosophy, right? I think they come from that. So, and then the very famous story is that the Frankenstein was written because Shelley. The Shelleys were staying with Lord Byron in his castle, and the weather was so bad that they couldn't actually go out, so they were sort of stuck indoors. And it was him, Byron, Pierce Shelley, Mary Shelley, and Byron's doctor, Dr. Polidori.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, and Polidori is interesting because Polidori was not a writer out of those four people, but what happened was because they were stuck indoors, Byron suggests to the guests, let's write ghost stories to pass our time. So they all are, tasked with coming up with a ghost story. Mary Shelley, now famously, that's the origin story of Frankenstein, because she, I'm not going to go into her whole all the different influences, but she was a very intelligent, confident, very out of step with the other women around her, right?
And she was 17 or 18 when this happened?
Yeah, she was 19 when the book was published.
Right.
So I think 18 when she wrote it, right? And she had these nightmares about this guy, a man, a scientist building a man, and the man coming to life. So yeah, she had these nightmares, and that's what led to her writing the story. The thing about that her story was the only one that actually survived, because I know that Byron's story was never finished. He had started something.
Well, how could they compete?
Yeah. And then Pierce Shelley also wrote something, but he was having trouble with it. They were taking a lot of laudanum as well, apparently. As
one does.
But interestingly, besides Frankenstein coming out of it, it was the doctor that was Byron's doctor and friend Polidori, who wound up publishing the first vampire novel called Vampire. And so it's interesting that both a Frankenstein and a Dracula movie books came out of that one night, right?
That's crazy.
Pretty crazy, man.
That's the laudanum speaking.
It's all about laudanum. Yeah. Where do I get laudanum? I'd like some. So all to say that then this book comes out. Now, the book is like what you call an epistolary novel, which is like it's all written in letters. So it's like it's very layered, and that's also very interesting about the book, which is kind of postmodern, right? Because you have this ship's captain who picks up Victor Frankenstein in the north, in the Arctic, and he's writing letters back home, and he's telling the story that Victor is telling him about what actually happened, right?
And then the monster tells his story
later on. And then the monster tells his story later on, his tale, right? So it's got that multiple perspective, layers of narrative in it, which is really interesting, right?
Yeah, which Del Toro tries to do in the movie. And his part of his goal was to make a film version that was more closer and authentic to the novel than other previous film versions were, which most of them differ completely. I mean, what did you think of Del Toro's film?
I liked it.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
Me too.
I'll tell you there were things about it I didn't like, but I'll say what I did like. First of all, it was a beautiful looking movie.
Yeah.
Stunning, like really.
The colors were.
Yeah, just absolutely gorgeous, like set pieces, and really well directed and stuff. I really loved the take on the monster, the creature. By what's his name, Jacob Elordi. Yeah, a really good interpretation, in my view, because a very attractive, repulsive kind of creature, and I think overall pretty good. The thing I had the most problem with this is going to sound bad, but I didn't really like Oscar Isaac as much as
I've heard a few people say exactly
I thought the portrayal of Dr. Frankenstein was uninspired. It seemed like a very typical, ambitious, scientist of the time, but I found
he's a bit like mad scientist, kind of screaming a lot, and
he goes nuts.
The whole relationship between him and Mia Goth seemed very undercooked.
Super undercooked. So I would say that's a big problem. But ultimately, I think it didn't ruin the movie for me, just because there's so many different aspects to the movie that I could appreciate. I will say that, again, I think it's a really good movie. I don't think it's a great movie, and I don't think I think there are better versions of Frankenstein.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, we could talk a little bit about that if you want.
Well, I agree with you on the film, for sure. You and I are on the same page.
Yeah.
You saw it in the theater?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And it's absolutely lavish to look at. But the one criticism I'll make on the visuals, and you saw it in the theater, so, but some of those visual effects with the wolves and stuff, that was pretty bad. There was some bad VFX, and I was like, this is a big budget.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think. But, you're right. There were a couple of
I did love the way the framing device with the ship was used and the ship's captain.
All those scenes in the Arctic are amazing.
I was thrilled that it kept the relationship between the monster and the old man and the family pretty close to the novel.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and again, Jacob Willardy's performance was terrific. And the characterization was, you've never seen anything like it in another Frankenstein film.
No, that's true. I mean, when we get to other versions that we like, there are a couple that I've seen that have been in the similar vein of what Elordi's doing, and where there's a real softness. I mean, Frankenstein the monster is always innocent in a sense, right?
He's not really the monster, of course.
No, of course not, right? But the thing about even Karloff's Frankenstein is he's always just about like friend, like he just wants a friend, right? He just wants some. He wants entrance into the human realm, right? With which of the privileges of respect and dignity and all that stuff, right? So
I think it's a bit more complicated in Bride of Frankenstein, which is the only other Frankenstein movie I can think of where he speaks. Well, I guess unless you count Kenneth Branagh's film version, which belongs in the toilet, but but really that he.
I think we have more jokes about that movie than almost any other.
Yeah, for sure, it's the worst Frankenstein.
That and The Mutiny are the two that I think you have.
But because in Bride of Frankenstein, he's very emotional on all sorts of different levels. It's not just he wants to be, and then at the end with the bride, and the bride rejects him, then he wants to die, and he makes that very clear. It's
sad. Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah,
it's so sad. Well, I mean, that's my favorite. My favorite Frankenstein film is certainly Bride of Frankenstein, the 1935 sequel to James Whale's original 1931 film.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the best. I mean, I don't know if I'd put it number one for me, but
sure.
Out of those sort of universal Frankenstein movies, the first one is the worst, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I actually find. Well, I mean, there's a million of them, but I'm talking about the first three, which is would be Frankenstein, Bride, and Son, right?
Right.
And out of those three, I like Bride and Son. I actually like Son best out of all of them, because I hadn't seen Son of Frankenstein, and I was blown away by like I thought, first of all, talk about your German expressionist films.
No kidding.
It was so like a throwback, you know, and like very von Sternberg or something like that, right? So there was a lot of really just gorgeous, like that, just the way that things are framed in the castle there with very geometric.
To me, it was very Murnau. It was very like
like Murnau, exactly. Yeah, like so I just thought the aesthetics on that one were like really fascinating.
The castle was incredible because it's like this sparse. It was the complete opposite of every other castle.
Yeah, it had a kind of a weird avant-garde quality.
Bricks. It's this.
Yeah, and just because I had never realized how much of one of my other top 10 versions of Frankenstein, Young Frankenstein. I mean, that's a remake of Son of Frankenstein, basically.
I couldn't believe it either.
It has that same character.
I had never seen it before either. Never seen Son of Frankenstein before, and so I watched it because you watched it, and I'm like, oh my god, like the whole Kenneth Mars thing.
Yeah, with the arm and the arm. I didn't know that was
brilliant.
And that scene,
and he was great
with the darts.
And also the overarching theme of Young Frankenstein, putting the comedy and satire aside, is the sins of the father and how you come home and you don't want to be what your father was, but you can't help it.
There's a legacy challenge there almost,
And then you also have what has got to be Bela Lugosi's greatest performance in any movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oscar-winning performance. That? I don't know. I 100%.
I didn't no idea that was in that movie.
I didn't even know it was him for a long time.
Yeah.
I was like, who is that guy? And then I was like, oh my God, like it's Bella, and he was great. He's amazing. Igor, and his Igor, that's the best Igor I've ever seen. Yeah. And he's the one with the relationship of a kind of master father, but a kind father in many ways, right? To the creature, to the right? Monster. Yeah, to the monster. So I think Son is my favorite, Bride, then the original.
Right.
Do you want to go through more that we think?
Yeah, I mean,
there's
one that is very close to my heart, I will say, and it's purely subjective.
Okay.
Because this one is the first piece of recorded film I remember ever seeing in my entire life. I was 5 years old, and I know I was 5 because when I was a kid, we moved around almost every year, and I remember the house that was we were living in.
Oh, okay.
And I was sitting up late with my dad in my pajamas watching TV, and there was a cut in the film from a laboratory wide shot to a close-up of, I think it was Dr. Frankenstein.
Right.
And I asked my dad, how did they do that?
Oh.
And he's like, how did they do what? So I'm like, well, how'd they go from like the big picture of the thing into this little picture of the guy's face? Because I don't know. and so yeah. And actually, when I went to film school, I became an editor, and I guess I figured.
Then you figured it out, right?
Yeah.
I was an editor. Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool story. Yeah. So one of your first. That reminds me so much of a movie that I think we both really agree is one of the best. It's not really an adaptation, but best use of, I guess, the Frankenstein, especially the film tropes. In a movie was the early 70s film called Spirit of the Beehive, right? By this very obscure director, Victor Iris, right? Mm-hmm. Or Vincent Iris. But it's really that's a story of just post-Franco Spain in this very small, tiny village. I just love this opening too when this truck comes.
It's actually the beginning of Franco's reign. It's right after it takes place in 1940 at the end of the Spanish Civil War.
Right.
And so fascism is just started.
Just starting, right? Yeah. Okay. It's just after the war. You're right. Yeah. So then there's this is a village that's so small that basically they have a distribution truck. Visit them every once in a while with movies that have, probably years old. This is in the 70s or in the 40s, and the movie came out 10 years earlier or whatever, right? And they get Frankenstein, and they show it in their local town hall. And there's a family at the center of the movie. It's a very complicated story. Basically the father is a professor, but is has had some. Has been cozying up with the government, and the mother has had an affair with this soldier, right? And you have these two little girls, and the one little girl who's kind of the center of it, she's just this amazing.
What a performance!
Yeah, amazing performance, beautiful little child, with a very innocent face. And when she sees Frankenstein, she gets obsessed with these two questions. She's like, "Why did he kill her?" Because the little girl in Frankenstein. And why is he alive, or something like that?
Why did they kill him?
Yeah, why did they kill him? Exactly. And then they're basically, the sister is telling her, he's coming. She's trying to scare him and scare her. It's the way that it's so much from a child's point of view, this movie, and it's it's about this girl who she sees the humanity in Frankenstein only, and that's why she's like, why are they torturing him? Why would he kill her? She doesn't believe that he would kill her. And then there's this beautiful part where she has a fantasy where she's now inserted in that exact scene down by the riverbank. Mm-hmm. And they have this very realistic looking Frankenstein character come. So they recreate that scene, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Victor Iris where he said, the scene in James Whale's 1931 Frankenstein where you've got the monster by the lake with the little girl, that image tells you everything you need to know about my film.
Right.
About the Spirit of the Beehive. Because to me, it was such a beautiful film. I had never seen it before. And it's one of those films that centers on children and never shies away from the darkness.
Right.
And that's something I think Del Toro also does in a lot of his films.
Right.
Like Pan's Labyrinth.
Right.
Devil's Backbone. Pinocchio are
Right.
all films from a point of view of a child, and they are dark, dark, dark.
Yeah, there's a lot of darkness in there for sure.
Because death is sort of hovering around this little girl in Spirit of the Beehive. You know, her and her sister are playing on the train tracks, and the train is coming, and we start getting upset. She's playing by a well, and when she runs into the freedom fighter who's hiding out in that shed,
right,
he's got a gun, and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
so it's like the whole movie skirts on the edge.
Yeah.
And she seems to know it, and she's skirting on the edge. And that's what childhood is like sometimes.
Yeah, but she's also trying to she's really trying to understand the humanity of the monster, right? And so when she goes to give food to the first, you think, oh, this is going to be like a rape, you know, like she goes into this into the shed, and there's a soldier there. He's desperate, you know, and he doesn't seem at all warm towards her, you know, and you think, oh no, like what's going to happen to her, right? And then she goes and she starts like looking after him, right?
Just bringing him food,
and making him feel, you know, and it's like that, you know, there's that whole thing about the girl and Frankenstein, right? Because in the movie also it's like the girl holds Frankenstein's hand and takes the flower, you know, he has no fear of him, right?
Yeah. And you know, so she has this humanity going on with the freedom fighter and with her sympathies toward Frankenstein, but what keeps oppressing her is sort of, and it's very implied, it's not explicit,
right?
But the fascist regime infuses the town with, like the father is very uncaring, he seems very distant, he's obsessed with his beehives.
Right.
And of course the freedom fighter, spoiler alert, is killed, and then the father finds out that it was his daughter who was kind of feeding him and protecting him. And you know, and I saw an interview with Guillermo del Torro, who said that Spirit of the Beehive was one of his top 3 favorite movies of all time.
Right.
And again, you can see those echoes throughout, and especially in Pinocchio, which similarly is about an innocent boy who is constantly under oppression from his environment.
Right.
And what's behind that oppression and behind the unfeeling people in his life is the fascist government at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I felt both films did that, you know.
For sure. Yeah. There's a lot of you know, there's a lot of politics in the original Frankenstein. But here's the thing about Frankenstein, though. You know, like the myth is so. One of the things that's so amazing about it is that it's very rich in terms of its. You can interpret it in almost any way. Like there's. You know, there's clearly like the man overreaching to God, right? Theories in there. There's the parenting, the fear of parenting, the shock of giving birth to something, creating something, the artist who creates something and unleashes it on the world.
You know, the damning patriarchy, where it's the father who trying to destroy his own son. Yeah.
So, you know, the interesting thing about the way I mean, I'm always going to read it more like this, you know, because you know, I like taking the psychoanalytic view. And one thing about Frankenstein, the interpretation I've always loved is the one that is about, you know, the split personality, so to speak, right? Or the kind of divided self. And I think that, you know, Frankenstein, you can read it this way. Victor Frankenstein is a guy who is so ambitious. He's looking to transcend humanity. He wants to be a god.
Yeah.
Right? He creates a man, right, out of fragmented pieces, right, and bits that comes to life, and he will not admit this thing into existence, right? He rejects it and suppresses it. And this is exactly how you could read, you know, yourself internally as a person who, you know, in order to, you know, achieve ambitions or whatever, you have to repress, you know, certain darker, primal,
or your humanity.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, really, the monster is more human.
Well, we're going to get to that in a second,
sure.
Right? Like the creation of the monster is horrific because it goes against God, right? I'm not saying this is what I believe. It's just sort of like the way you would break it down, right? So you have a man who's trying to reach God's position, and that's always punished, right? In all myths. Yeah. That's why modern Prometheus, right? Like Prometheus was famously gave fire to human beings and was punished by the gods for life, right? So it's that knowledge, that sense of technology. This was also a time, when industrial revolution, technology was now going to save everybody's life, right? Yeah. And this was also in the air at the time of the writing. A lot of scientific discoveries and an emphasis placed on scientism, right? A kind of way of looking at the world through, again, a rationalist, telescope. So you have this split character, right? This guy who, in order to achieve a kind of status in the game, in the world, right, has to repress these elements of himself. So he creates this id figure, for a better word, and it immediately gets rejected by its creator.
Right.
Because, as I was saying earlier, with his constantly saying his name over and over again, he merely by achieving this godlike thing, by creating a man in his own image, he's also, sort of damned himself to being only human, right?
Right.
Because that's what his creation reminds him of, right? That this mirror of him,
he's staring back at him.
Is staring right back at him.
This is so, look at all these couple other 1800s horror novels. Robert Louis Stevenson, Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
I think that's 100% a ripoff.
And Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray.
For sure. Yeah.
Very much the same themes.
Oh, yeah. Hugely, which then gets picked up by so many people, think of Patricia Highsmith, whatever, where it becomes the costumed or the masquerade that the psychopath puts on, right?
Right.
Again, any you call this more adjacent Frankenstein, but any situation in which you have a powerful dominant who is manipulating a weaker, more fragile.
Like the movie The Apprentice with Donald Trump and Roy Cohn. That's a Frankenstein story.
Wow, for fuck's sake, man. You can't get more Frankenstein than that, right? There is nothing more Frankenstein than fucking Trump, But yeah, 100%. The metaphor works on anything that you create, right? So not just give birth to, right? But also because give birth to is a metaphor for creation, right? So
give birth to is a bit more, it's more quote unquote maternal. It's more, there's more of a nurturing feeling to it. But when you create it out of a lab with science, with rationality, that opens up the schism.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot in there about the fact that a young proto-feminist like Mary Shelley is the one who writes about men. And this is another aspect of the Frankenstein myth that I find so fascinating because it's so ahead of its time in terms of gender ideas. The idea that a man would give birth, right, it goes back to a kind of early concept of envy, right? Like maybe you could call it womb envy. I don't know. But I think men have always envied the fact that they cannot actually give birth. They cannot produce life.
Right.
They can participate, right, in producing life, but they don't actually produce life. And, most of patriarchy is all about the lineage of your children, right? And the concept of, a woman has to be kept chaste and all that stuff because you have to prove that it's your name. Again, name of the father, name, right?
And interesting that the most famous Frankenstein movies that were made were directed by an openly gay filmmaker.
Absolutely.
Like James Whale.
Yeah. Openly gay. And I think that in a way there's also a metaphor for that. That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely the gay community has picked up on Frankenstein a long time ago.
Yep. As
a myth that is really a kind of, a closeted gay story, right? It's like these, the women are
in
there.
A trans story, yeah.
Yeah, these women are in there in a kind of perfunctory manner, right? And the interesting thing about the book, and this is one of the things about the Del Toro I also didn't care for, as close as it was to the spirit of the Shelley novel, I think it kind of missed out on things like, in the book, when the creature comes back and asks Victor to make him a companion, and it doesn't work out, right? The creature then kills Victor's fiance,
Elizabeth.
It is. Yeah. He kills her, and he also kills a lot of his family.
Yeah, he kills his little cousin. I think,
yeah, he kills a lot of people.
It's pretty brutal.
And it's like, it's clearly a kind of, obviously on the surface, a revenge from the creature to, against the Doctor. But it's also about a kind of, if you think about it as this is an aspect of his own darkness that he's repressing or not admitting to. It could be he could be doing it himself, right? Maybe there is no creature. Maybe it's just him, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? Yeah. So I think the prototype is there for that interior version, which is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is externalized, right? And therefore it has a lot more of those other aspects like parenting, about that, nurturing, about, trauma to children, abandonment, right?
Yeah.
Because the interesting thing too is like, Mary Shelley's mother died in childbirth. So she was an abandoned child, right? Or she felt abandoned, right? Sure. And Victor is very much abandoned by his father in the, in the sense that he treats him like shit. And he was
in the Del Toro movie.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's in the novel, is it? This whole
it is that his mother dies young.
Yeah, his mother dies young. I don't remember any sequences in the novel where the Doctor's father is treating him poorly as a young. I don't know.
There's some talk. I can't remember. I haven't read it in a long time, but there is some talk of
but that's something easily. Again, right back in Del Toro's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Most of his films have some kind of
evil
male
father.
authority figure who's being abusive toward the child.
Yeah, and this sets up a cycle because then Victor, in order to achieve the approval of his own father, attempts to do this, beyond human thing, right? And winds up abandoning his own child, right? And
it's the same thing all over
again. It does the same thing all over again in an attempt to meet a status of superiority, greatness, all that stuff, right?
Which also is in Son of Frankenstein very obviously and Young Frankenstein. It's an interesting, it's fascinating how tropes stick and other ones don't, right? Because like this one, it's, even though it's about men, a man, giving birth to a child, basically, it's so universal for any gender, for any race. I think Frankenstein has been made in every country that has a cinema. Yeah.
Ever. Like, that's what I'm saying. There's thousands of these. So there's something clearly about, that whole story, right? Now, there's another connection that I found really interesting between Frankenstein and an ancient myth, which goes back to a Jewish myth of the golem, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the golem is basically a creature made out of clay, fashioned by a rabbi, who then writes the word, the Hebrew word imut, which means truth, on its forehead. It comes to life and protects the Jews from pogroms, right? And the very famous one was in Prague. A very famous rabbi wrote a story about the golem of Prague. That became a very famous story, and it clearly was something that they could have read, right, as children. So the golem is like one of the first instances of a creature being created that then can, and then also gets out of control. And the only way and the only way to kill the golem is because of the Hebrew word imut. If you cross out the e, the mut that's left means death.
Right.
So you have to cross out the e.
I think I remember this from the movie, but yeah.
Yeah. So this is a myth that goes even further back. There's Prometheus, of course, and ancient gods. If you look at ancient gods, they are always punishing, humans for doing.
They're always trying to kill their own kids.
Yeah, well, that's all they do, right?
Yeah, all they do is try to murder their own
sons.
Well,
I was talking about this with Ishmael, but at the time in ancient Greece, one of the great writers, Ovid, wrote The Metamorphoses, which is a book that's all about the gods. But these gods, they are so vindictive. They rape people. They're jealous.
That's all Zeus does is rape people.
Yeah, rape and put curses and kill other people's kids and eat their kids and all that kind of throw them into labyrinths, all that kind of stuff. So the concept of the gods being somehow virtuous is what he's saying is no. And the reason why it's trenchant politically is because obviously these are critiques about people who claim to have authority.
Yeah.
And they're just dirty scumbags like Donald Trump. Yeah.
No, I mean it really is unbelievable how the mythos of Frankenstein doesn't go away. It just gets richer and bigger, and you can see it showing up in all these different films.
Yeah.
And then of course the things like Young Frankenstein, which is a parody, but it's very,
it's excellent.
Beautiful film.
It's actually pretty close in many ways,
yeah.
Even though it's like you were saying, it's very parody and whatever, but it's close to.
Well, it's the love that Mel Brooks has for the subject matter comes through.
Yeah.
I mean, and actually the project started with Gene Wilder.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those parodies that doesn't have a mean bone in its body. It loves every moment.
Yeah, it loves all the universal.
Unlike, say,
stuff.
Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is sort of an offshoot, gross kind of ridiculous Frankenstein.
I don't know. I like Rocky Horror.
I don't like Rocky.
I like Rocky Horror. So I mean, I saw it 800 times.
Okay, well.
So it was a part of my teenage years, but. I was talking about the other movies that are sort of adjacent, and definitely Rocky Horror Picture Show is a Frankenstein movie, but it really kind of brings out the homosexual subtext
for sure
in it, like making a man, right? So that I appreciate how it sort of did it.
Yeah,
it's not a great movie. I'm not saying it's a great movie, but it's an interesting interpretation.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So a couple of other ones that I really liked. I thought Poor Things was quite an interesting take on Frankenstein, and in many ways, kind of sort of like comes at it from the opposite end, right?
Yeah, I really liked it as well, and it had such a bizarre, off-putting performance. To say the least.
Yeah, her performance was tough. Yeah.
It was great, and it's a really strong film.
It's a great film.
But not always easy to watch, but
no, but I mean it's it's again making a woman is a different situation completely, right? So and all of the gender sexuality issues come out that are also in the original on the male side, right? That one's really good. But a couple of mine that are actually, I'm going to say are a couple of my favorites. I think the closest one, and this is going to be like, people are going to be like, this guy's old and what the fuck's he talking about? But I think the closest one I've seen that got the essence and the emotional content completely down was a TV movie version. In the early 70s, called Frankenstein: The True Story, with Michael what's that guy's name? Michael Wilding, that guy, and he plays Victor. Michael Sarrazin plays the creature,
right?
James Mason is Polidori. So it's a mix. So this was like a 2 or 3 part television thing. So it's long. It's about 2.5 hours, 3 hours, right? And it includes characters from that night, like
right
in the story. So it's not the
Bride of
novel.
Frankenstein does that too.
Yeah, it has Polidori in it too. But he's in the sort of non-diegetic part of it, right? Sort of like
I don't think Polidori's in it. It's like Bride of Frankenstein starts with the three with Shelly and Byron.
They're doing the ghost
doing
stories,
their thing, and then she starts telling the story and recaps the first film,
right?
And then it launches into the rest of the film,
right? So, and in this one, what I liked about it was, even though this is not in the book, is when Victor creates his creature, he's actually beautiful at first.
Okay.
Like very, very pleasant to look, like, if you like Michael Cera. Yeah. He was considered kind of handsome back in the day. Yeah. So, and he's learning like My Fair Lady style, which is also another Frankenstein thing.
Good point.
So, but then he starts to deteriorate. And so you start to see.
I want to see this.
Yeah, I know, it's really good. You can get it on YouTube. Really shit version, but
yeah.
But this one, I thought it was great, even though it takes a lot of liberties with the material. It gets to the heart of, by doing that reverse, like first everybody loves him, and then it's just like the rejection over time is just brutal, right? Because he was once loved.
I don't think I've ever seen that in any Frankenstein story.
No, and it's there in the novel too, like that he wants to. He gets over time. It's in the movie too, in the Del Toro, where at first he's trying to teach him and be nice, but he chains him from the very beginning.
Yeah.
His fear of him is, totally outweighs his compassion, right? Because you're thinking, why does he chain him like from the very beginning, right? And like that's the problem, right?
Was this TV movie directed by anybody notable or any? Remember?
I don't know.
Okay.
But there's a lot
Most of them weren't.
There's a lot of British stars in it. It's a British production.
Oh, okay.
Like John Gielgud's in it for a bit,
I gotta see this.
Yeah. James Mason plays Polidori really, really like gross, greasy style, right? Jane Seymour was in it. She's like one of her first things.
I think by contract she had to be in every single 1970s and 1980s TV British everything.
Yeah, that's true. Until she got Queen Medicine Woman.
Yeah, Medicine Woman. Yeah.
Which is the greatest thing I think and ever created in mind. So that one is great. The other one I'm going to mention quickly is It's Alive by Larry Cohen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because Larry Cohen, nobody gives a shit about him anymore, but he's great. And I've always been a big fan. And It's Alive was one of those movies that I thought, oh my God, this sounds ridiculous, And then I was bawling.
It's so good.
I was bawling at the end,
Yeah.
So, and it has that theme of accepting the darkness, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's part of you. And that's something that, Frankenstein, to his credit, sort of does at the end of the novel. He sort of acknowledges the creature by kind of apologizing, right, for his hubris. But, that goes back to, if you know Shakespeare, there's a Shakespeare play, The Tempest, and there's a character, Caliban, on the island who's like a sidekick to the main guy, to Prospero. And he's this vile kind of, creature that, everybody kind of kicks around, right? And at one point, Prospero says, this thing of darkness I take unto me, right? So it's that acknowledgement of the thing of darkness, the darkness in you. The more you repress it, as our favorite Robin Wood used, kind of clinched, in his studies on horror, the return of the repressed. The thing that's going to come back is the thing you're trying to deny, exists, and it's going to come back in a monstrous form, right? And it's going to come back and it's going to be the thing that destroys you, right? So it's all about getting Victor to accept his creation as something good, as something loved, something that he can love, or at least show compassion to, right? And because he's unable to do that, he destroys himself. He destroys everybody around him, right?
It's such a universal theme that...
Because we all do it.
We all do it.
Yeah,
exactly.
We all do it, right? We all push down, darkness in ourselves. We don't want to admit that we have dark thoughts or whatever, or that we think...
Or we force that ideology upon our own children.
Or we project it out onto,
out,
like the way people say, like it's the immigrants, right? It's like, well, the immigrants are a Frankenstein monster, right? Everything that you create out of your fantasy, that's something that you can then reject and sort of oppress.
Yeah,
is a Frankenstein story, right? So it has big political meaning for me as well. But yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, Frankenstein. Huge in my life. When I read it for the first time, it blew my goddamn mind.
Yeah.
Because of course I knew about the Frankenstein movies, but when I was a kid, I just thought that's what it was.
Yeah.
And when you read the novel, it's a totally different thing. You see all of the depth.
Well, way back when I was 5 and I was watching TV with my dad, I figured out later on as I kept trying to remember it that it was one of the Hammer films, one of the 1950s.
Right. Yeah.
British horror studio.
Hammer horrors, yeah.
So it was The Curse of Frankenstein, I think.
Oh,
Christopher Lee.
Right.
Who does his own kind of thing with the monster too, right?
Yeah.
Because Christopher Lee refused to watch the James Whale films.
Oh.
Before, and he did his own thing with the makeup and everything. He looks very different than the Boris Karloff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many more. I think we should maybe maybe we'll put out a list on our Letterboxd accounts or something, and people can go take a look. But yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating myth. I'm still waiting for somebody to kind of like really nail it, but I don't think we've quite gotten there.
No, we haven't. It'd be a tough novel to really nail because it is very much of its time.
I think that
as universal as the themes are, to make it truly authentic, you would really have to make the Kenneth Branagh film.
Oh, yipes! I'm sorry, Robert De Niro. As
what? I tried rewatching that a couple of years ago. I got 10 minutes in, and I'm like, I can't.
It's like this is a
from
waste
the first
of
frame.
Time.
It's the worst movie.
And it's like he's got a Brooklyn accent. He's like, hey, Frankenstein, hey, did you ever consider the consequences of your actions? Frankenstein.
And he's like shirtless the whole time anyway.
Yeah. You fucking with me? Frankenstein, you fucking with me?
We need a gangster Frankenstein.
Yeah, gangster Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Tony Frankenstein.
Well, yeah, like Moltisanti's horror movie script.
Who's?
The Sopranos?
Oh.
Remember?
No.
It's a zombie gangster movie.
Oh, yeah, of course.
With Billy Baldwin.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
That note.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
You're a monster.
You're a monster.
All right.
I'm a teenage Frankenstein.
That's a good one, too.
Yeah.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye. Alice Cooper, by the way.